Gentlemen, please welcome back Alan KASUJJA, along with Minister of Post and Digital Economy, Cina Lawson.
On. Yeah. I hope you're fine. I just met the minister not too long ago, and we have no idea what we're going to talk about. But we'll figure it out. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And Minister, what exactly do you do?
I'm the Minister of Post and Digital Economy in Togo.
What does that mean?
It means that I'm in charge of the postal sector and also making sure that the economy is supported by digital infrastructure and services. Because, Togo is one of the few countries that has a ministry dedicated to digital affairs. And basically, it's understanding how important digital issues, digital infrastructure, telecommunications infrastructure and services are important for the development of the country, be it the economy, but also social issues.
Okay, so let's just take this conversation back a little bit and start from the very beginning, how you ended up here. What were you doing before you became so important?
I was working in business development at Orange in New York City.
So you were in the private sector?
I was.
Working for a multinational?
Yes.
And before that, you'd gone to Harvard, I'm told?
Yes. I was in Harvard at the Kennedy School of Government in a master's in the MPP, Masters of Public Policy
Okay.
program.
And the transition from private sector at a multinational level into the government sector, was that a difficult one?
It was a bit difficult, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was a transition from New York City to Lomé. That was also a bit of a...
From New York to Lomé was also a big one.
It was a big one. From the private sector to the public sector, it was also a big transition. And from doing something that I've longed for a long time. I was working in the private sector, but my heart was with the public sector. So for me to be given a lifetime opportunity, which is to serve my country, was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
And so when they say to serve your country, you're basically trying to make sure that the future of Togo is assured, because that's what your job does.
Exactly.
It's not just about sending letters all over the place.
No, it's not. It's much more
Because they
than
say
that.
Minister of Postal Services.
And digital economy.
Yes.
So it's making sure that we have the right infrastructures in place, that we have the right policies in place to support digital economy. It's also making sure that we do whatever we can to help young people in Togo to get where they need to be to support the economy.
What is digital economy?
It's basically, and that's how I started, it's to understand the importance of digital issues for the economy. It's to understand that everything in the economy is supported by telecom infrastructure and services and digital infrastructure. So it's to say, Togo, for example, and it's not an easy thing to explain, but I think it's important for people to understand. Togo is a country, we have 6.5 million inhabitants, 56,000 square kilometers. We don't have a lot of natural resources, and our economy and our development rely upon us being tomorrow a hub, a regional hub. And if you think of yourself and if you think of your future as a hub, you need to have the right infrastructure in place, being in terms of transport, but also in terms of telecommunications, to be able to support that kind of vision. And that's what our ministry do.
So what is your master plan? Talk me through what you want to achieve in numbers. From where are you right now and where do you want to go?
Right.
Because I'll give you, for example, their countries, Rwanda is 26,000 square miles. It has 4,000 square miles of optic fiber. What about Togo? Where is Togo now and where does it aspire to be?
Okay, so I think it's not about the... we do have... There's several areas where we need to grow. To give you an example, I started talking about telecommunications infrastructure. It's true that if you go to Togo today, you don't have a lot of infrastructure because fiber deployment is very recent. In Lomé, for example, we decided that we were going to wire all of the capital city with fiber infrastructure to connect the main buildings that on the government side, to connect all the administration with optical fiber. And then the private sector was also deploying the same fiber to make sure that we had a connected city. But that's it's the very beginning of the process. So the first thing
So you're
was
at the
to
very
assure-
beginning?
We're at the beginning, yes.
How long will it take you to get to where you want to be?
We will finish the deployment. It's going to be around Togo from north to south is 700 kilometers. It's a very tiny country. We do have fiber from the north of the country to the south of the country. To wire the entire city of Lomé, the capital city, we need to have 500 or 600 kilometers of fiber altogether. It's round. It's not going to be.
Who's paying for this stuff?
So we have the private sector paying for it, and we have the public sector paying for it. For example, in the project that the ministry is leading, which we named the e-government, we're working with the Chinese. So we took on a loan.
The Chinese again. The Chinese are everywhere.
Yes, but in terms of telecom infrastructure, they're very effective, and it's very quick to achieve, because what is important for us today is to make sure and to tell the Togolese people that, guys, 10 months from now, we're going to have the capital city entirely wired, and that's the promise
Do they
we're going to
understand
deliver.
that, though? Do the Togolese understand what you're trying to achieve?
Yes, they do, because today what the problem is that when you're trying to connect yourself to the internet, you don't have the speed or the quality of service that you need to be able to do something very meaningful. So it is an issue. Every time, everywhere I go, people talk to me about the quality of service and what we're going to do to make sure that it improves.
Is that because they want to get to Facebook, or is it because they want to do real business on
I
the
think
internet?
that a lot of people, it's going to be for entertainment, but I don't mind people using the internet for entertainment. You have the majority of people who are going to use it for entertainment and the Facebook and social networks, but you do have a lot of businesses that want to increase the market share and the type of opportunities they have using telecom and communications services.
So what are you
it's
giving?
for them.
Okay, so what are you giving the Chinese in return for their money?
What I'm giving them
The Chinese, what are the Chinese getting out of this?
The Chinese, what are they getting? For Huawei, it's a contract. It's a deployment of fiber. They get paid for this. The Chinese don't work for free.
I know they
So
don't.
they get,
And
we get our network, and they get their money.
Okay, does anybody have a question? Questions? Yes? There's a question there. Let's start with the lady, please. Yes, the lady at the front.
Bonjour, Karine de la Garonnière,
Hello, Karine de la Garonnière, president of a company in Africa. I know, Mrs. Minister, that you are soon organizing the Union African meeting on marine security from November 2nd to 7th. I would like to know what your ministry is implementing or preparing for this major event that will take place, and that will certainly have an international outreach.
Okay, let's have number 3 as well, please. Real quick, brief question. The lady over there, number 3, yes. Is there someone there? Okay, there's a gentleman over there.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. I'm Sam Fungo. I'm a diasporan as well from Cameroon. I live in London. I'm very pleased to know that a country like Togo has actually appointed a diasporan like yourself to be a minister. Were you appointed solely based on your merit, or were you very vocally in support of the government? Because I noticed that most African countries, if you're a diasporan, you're busy doing your business. If you're not very vocal, you don't wear a T-shirt with the president's head on it, you never get appointed.
Did you have to wear the president's
Did you have to wear a T-shirt?
of the president's head on your...
Not at all. Quite
No.
the contrary, actually.
Quite to the contrary, right. And we'll come to that. We'll come to your question in a bit as well. But he makes an interesting point about the diaspora, coming back home and having an impact. That gentleman over there, you've had your hand up for a bit. Yeah?
Hello. My name is Pierre Côté. I'm a citizen journalist. Minister, as a Minister of Post and Digital Economy, my question is, what do you say of people who think and they say that bandwidth is a civil right? What do you say on that?
Africans have begun saying that bandwidth is a civil right.
Bandwidth.
Wow, interesting. Would you like to start by responding to that and then telling us what you're doing about the conference that you're organizing on marine security?
Yes, I think I think it's a very, very important point you make. I do believe it is one. And that's why I always say two things are important to the Togolese people. The first is that they need, high-speed internet at a very good quality of service. The second one is that the price of this, of accessing this bandwidth be low. And so you're right, because if it's a civil right, I don't know if it's a civil right, it's a fundamental tool for the economy and for society. Knowing, and when you think of anything digital, you were mentioning social networks, for example. A lot of humanity today lives online. And so if by giving them the possibility, giving the Togolese people the possibility to live online and to meet people on these social networks, if I do that, then I give them back the right to have a voice in the international arena.
So how are you going to make sure as a government that it's actually affordable and accessible to majority of the Togolese?
First, we need to invest in infrastructure.
Are you doing that?
We're already doing that. The second is that we're working with telcos. We need to increase the competition and force them to actually decrease the prices.
To force them?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not attractive to investors if the government is going to interfere with their pricing.
It's very attractive to investors because it's the government understanding the cost structure of the business they're in. I mean, nobody wants to destroy value because when you're talking about investment, you need to create enough value to have an incentive for telcos to continue to deploy their networks. But you also need them to understand that the game is about them having the right set of prices to have a lot of people, to enable a lot of people to have access to the internet.
Okay. And then the lady talks about the conference that's taking place there.
Yes, we're doing a lot of things.
A lot of big African conferences have been held in Togo. In the 80s, a lot of big decisions were made in Togo. A lot of the Lomé agreements we hear about. So since then, there have been issues. So what's going on to make sure that you take it back there?
Indeed, we do have a conference, a huge conference of the African Union in November, early November. And on the telecom side, it was one of the first meetings we had was to make sure, working with telcos to make sure that the bandwidth be good in hotels around every the conference space. So we have, and we're investing a lot and working with.
Are you just building the hotels now?
We're actually building one of the hotels, renovating it. It used to be a very famous hotel in the 1980s, Hôtel du 2 Février. And it's been, we're renovating it. I mean, the private sector is renovating it, and I think it's a Radisson Blu.
Will the internet infrastructure be in place to make sure that the conference is successful?
It's not, we're doing that, but not only for the conference, because what we did was that we took this opportunity to work, for example, with owners of hotels to explain to them what they needed in order to offer the clients the right bandwidth. There's a lot of education going on and a lot of investment with the private sector going on to make sure that people have access to the bandwidth they need.
Anybody else with a question? Yes, madam? Obviously, there are very many questions, yeah. So make it as brief as possible so that we can bring in everybody else.
Yes?
Yeah.
Neila Benzina, I'm CEO of an information technologies company in Tunisia. My question is, what is Togo doing to put in place smart cities and to become a smart country?
What are those?
If not yet.
Smart cities. For the sake of those who don't know what they are, it's not because I don't know. Well, I don't know either, but...
Then smart cities, you want me to
yes,
explain what
just
is
for the
smart
sake
cities?
of everybody, yes.
Okay, then putting in place smart cities is not only having connected cities with Wi-Fi and things like that, but also bringing to the citizens the services and the possibility to have the most important usages through internet and through the digital.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's have some more questions coming in. Yes, sir. Would you like to ask a question, sir?
Merci. Lionel Zinsou du Bénin.
Thank you, Lionel Zassou from Benin.
Nous vous admirons beaucoup.
Minister, we
Nous considérons que
admire you
vous
tremendously.
avez un
We
drive
consider
sur l'économie digitale pour
that
toute l'Afrique,
your
devrait profiter.
energy in the
question que
digital
j'avais, c'est
economy should be
comment,
made available
en travaillant
to all
ensemble
other African countries.
entre pays
My
proches,
question is,
pour que
how as
on
neighboring
ait
countries can we
des
work
économies
together
d'échelle,
to
les
achieve
échanges
the necessary
d'expériences,
economies
les
of
meilleures
scale, to
que
exchange
ce que vous faites nous
experiences,
inspire.
to exchange best
Il y a aussi,
practices,
nos amis
because
ivoiriens,
what
nos
you
amis
are doing is a
sénégalais,
source of
qui vont à toute
inspiration.
vitesse.
Our friends
Nous
from
nous
the
y
Ivory
mettons.
Coast and
Comment
from
est-ce qu'on
Senegal
pourrait
are also
travailler
moving ahead
ensemble,
very
non seulement
fast.
du côté de
How
l'État,
can we
mais
work together,
au
not
service
just
de toutes
between
les
public
entreprises qui ont
institutions,
besoin
but
de
also
ce développement
with
digital?
many corporations
Comment on
and
pourrait
firms that
connecter
need these digital
politiques de
evolutions?
connectivité?
How can we conjugate our connectivity
For those who
policies?
don't know, that is the Prime Minister of Benin, Mr. Lionel Zanzu. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Did you hear what she said? He said that you have a fan. The Prime Minister of Benin is a big fan of what you're doing. And he'd like to see some of the stuff that you're doing spread a little bit. What sort of cooperation do you have with neighboring countries?
We do have some projects within the YMU, UMOA in French, but I think that what is important is to have the political will to create an environment and to co-finance projects. I had a conversation earlier with Marie-Cécile about what, and it will enable me to answer the question on smart city, because Benin has a project to build a smart city, a city in which you would have a very good and excellent connectivity, and actually people who would be educated and supported, entrepreneurs and young people with IT ideas, etc. And that kind of initiative for us is a huge opportunity to work together, because we would be sending Togolese there, and we could even develop some kind of partnership so that we had twin cities. This type of initiatives are very good, because I had a conversation with someone from Senegal, and he told me, in Togo you don't have an incubator, and we have a lot of Togolese coming, young people with great ideas going to Senegal because they need to have incubators.
Okay.
And I think with the project and the initiative that the Prime Minister of Benin has to create a smart city, it's typically the type of things that we need to be doing together.
You should have dinner with the Prime Minister and discuss this further.
Absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
that would be very productive.
Absolutely.
And I think, when all this is said and done, how important is your job for the future of Togo?
I think it's crucial, because if our development relies upon being a hub, we need to make sure that we have the right infrastructures, the right policies in place. The other thing is that in terms of education, we do a lot, our ministry does a lot in terms of education to create what we called a digital environment within schools. We want to make sure, because it's not only about infrastructure, it's about content and relevant content. You were saying earlier, you just want to have a telecom infrastructure so that people could connect to Facebook or social networks. No, it's part of it, but the most important is that it be meaningful for whatever purpose they have, be it in education or in the business sector. And that's why it's so important for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cina Lawson, Minister of Postal and Digital Economy of the Republic of Togo. Let's give a round of applause and thank her very much. It's been a real pleasure.